Good evening, friends, and welcome to the frozen tundra of Oklahoma. It is bitterly, bitterly cold here today, as you can tell. This is my writing. I'm not gonna call it a snuggie, like a cardigan wrapped up in a blanket that makes me feel like I'm being hugged. And today I need a hug because it's so cold. Ugh, the rest of the house is super warm, and probably by the time I get done with this, I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot in here." But ooh, right now my office is cold. So pardon me if I just keep on my little anti-snuggie, my cardigan snuggie, while I do my live today because it is cold and I might shove it off later when I warm up because I'm talking to you and getting all excited about writing because that is why we're here. And I'm actually seeing some people join. So yay, it's working. See, I had to chat with Mark Zuckerberg and we had to have us a chit chat. So anyway, in case you're wondering who I am, if you're a first timer here to Indie Strong, my name is Jennifer McMurrain and I am the host of Indie Strong, and this is episode 10. I'm running out of fingers. I'm gonna have to count on my toes, which will be really hard because I'm totally wearing socks right now because it's so cold. But 10 episodes in, and if you've missed an episode, you can totally catch up on YouTube. I do post these videos on YouTube every Tuesday. So for those of you watching on YouTube, hi, thank you. And if you are watching on YouTube and you feel so inclined, please hit the like button down there on the bottom and also subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode of Indie Strong because I post them randomly on Tuesdays. It just kind of depends on how busy the day is. And let me tell you, this week is going to be a doozy, but that's okay because sometimes I thrive when I'm busier because I know I only have X amount of time to get something done. And so I'm hyper focused. Where if I'm not so busy, I'm more inclined to procrastinate. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So anyway, if you are watching on YouTube, I definitely appreciate you just as much as I appreciate y'all watching live on Facebook. Thank you so much for your support and for all those comments. I do appreciate it. It does make me feel like I'm not talking to myself. So I hear you, Jenny. Thank you. So anyway, I'm going to pull this down a little bit. I don't know what it's doing to my hair. Gotta look fancy, right? So anyway, so happy Veterans Day. I just got back a little bit ago from my daughter's concert. They did the select choir did a patriotic concert. Let me tell you, when those kids sang I'm Proud to Be an American, which is one of my favorite songs ever, and God Bless the USA. Yeah. I'm telling you what, man, I just get all teary-eyed. I just can't help it. I really love my country. I don't always like what's going on in my country, but I really do love America. And I know that I have a country to love because of those veterans who are currently serving and those who have served. And so I just want to say thank you. I wish I could give a shout out to all of my family that has served because I have got uncles and cousins and brothers-in-law, my brother-in-law and grandfathers, uncles, so many. I'm going to forget somebody. So I know it's totally inadequate, but I hope you do take my blanket. Thank you. I know it's not nearly enough, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all those who are serving and those who have served. You are truly, truly appreciated in this great nation of ours. So thank you. Thank you. So, of course, I wish it wasn't so cold on your Veterans Day, but hey, that's okay because I got my cardigan snuggie. So we are going to get on to questions so that I don't run out of time because I have a very long question at the end. So first question is, and I was just talking about this 2 seconds ago, what is this productive procrastination? I've heard you mention a time or two. I feel like I resemble this remark. That's from Shirley in Nebraska. Well, Shirley, let me tell you, as a pro of productive procrastination, basically it is putting off something that you really need to do something that just needs to be done. So it's putting off something that you have a deadline for maybe something you don't have a deadline for. For example, of course, you guys have heard me talk about NaNoWriMo. It is National Novel Writing Month, and everybody is striving to get 50,000 words in the month of November and write 1,667 words a day. Yes, I'm still behind. I'm cool with it, though. Had a lot of other things to do. For example, I cleaned my office and did all of my inventory and caught up on my book work. That, my friends, is productive procrastination. Here I am. I'm on a deadline. I really want to write 50,000 words in the month of November. And yet I took a whole day to clean my office, count my inventory, and catch up on my book work. Yes, that stuff all had to be done, but it didn't have to be done right now. And that is what productive procrastination is. And some people may be like, okay, so why? Because I definitely love to write more than I love to clean. Anybody who's been to my house knows that. But the thing is, the why is sometimes it can be very, very overwhelming to write a book or to meet a goal or to have the pressure. And writing isn't always, I mean, sure, we have words, but it's not always a tangible thing. So it's really hard to see how far you've come when you still have so far to go. When picking up your office or doing your inventory or clicking off your book work, that's all tangible. That's all stuff I can see. It's done. I don't have to go back to it. It's finished. Check it off the list. So I think that's probably why productive procrastination is such a big thing for me and for a lot of writers. They just didn't know what to call it until now. You're welcome. But yeah, it's basically, it's putting off something that needs to be done now, something that you have a deadline for in order to do something else that needs to be done, just not right now. And so that's what productive procrastination is. And please don't get caught up in it like I did this weekend, because then you lose that time. And where it's okay to be behind in NaNoWriMo. Like I told you, NaNoWriMo is set to help you get into the habit of writing every day. And it is cool as punch if you make 50,000 words, but do not beat yourself up if you don't. Try to make that goal for sure, but it shouldn't be giving you extra gray hairs, because writing should be a joyous occasion. And yes, some days are hard. I'm not going to say it's all rainbow farts and glitter, because it's not, but it definitely should. You should have more days where you enjoy the writing process than that you hate it, because it really should be a occupation that you love if it's what you're doing as an occupation. Okay. I'm a firm believer in striving to do that job that you love, even if you have to do that job you don't love as much for a while, but striving to do that work that you get paid to do something that you love. So anyway, I'm going off on a rabbit trail again. But anyway, productive procrastination may feel productive, but it actually gets you further behind when it comes to deadlines. So try not to get wrapped up in that. Question number 2. And I'm going to say this wrong, okay? I'm just telling you right now, my brain does not like this word, but I'm going to do my best. I keep seeing the term story trope. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Story trope. Trope is the word I'm looking for. Story trope. Why did I pick this question? What is that? This question is from Gina in Kentucky. No, Gina, it's not your fault that my brain wants to say troop instead of trope every single time. So let's answer the question. Every story, every genre has a story trope. I'm trying very hard not to say trope, you guys. It's going to be hard for me. What that means is what the reader expects when they're reading a certain kind of story. What they expect when they pick up, sorry, I've got little flies voice from my hoodie. What they expect when they're when they pick up a book of a certain genre. For example, if I pick up a romance book, I'm expecting the story to be, and I'm just going to use a boy-girl example, because I know there's other romance genres, but for this purpose, I'm going to use boy-girl. Boy-girl going to fall in love, boy-girl meet, boy-girl fall in love, boy-girl have a misunderstanding, boy-girl break up, then the couple has to reunite, and they live either happily ever after or happily for now. When you read a romance, you expect them to live happily ever after. It should have a happy ending as a romance. If it doesn't have a happy ending, it's not a romance. That is a story trope. I see my brain wants to say trope every time. I'm like, that's not right, Jennifer. Trope. That is a story trope. I just did it again. Trope. Oh, my word. Y'all, I even practiced this part because I knew I was going to have a problem with the trope. Oh, my tongue doesn't like it. Okay, so it's also called a cliche. And I really never liked that word, even though I can say it so much better than trope. I'm cracking myself up here with this trope. But even though I can say cliche better, cliche always had a negative connotation for people. Like, oh, that's so cliche. Like, you're not being unique. And part of writing for a trope is to be creative about it. So here's another example. Cozy murder mysteries. There is an ungruesome murder. It cannot be gruesome. It has to be ungruesome. I don't know if that's a word, but it is today. If I can say trope, I can say ungruesome. Why not? I'm a writer. I make things up. That's what I do. So there's a murder that is not gruesome, if that makes you feel better. And an amateur sleuth, usually a female, has to solve this murder mystery because something about her life is at risk. She usually figures out who done it by accidental findings, gossip, and a bit of sleuthing. And almost always there's a law officer involved, usually a male, usually a love interest, that gets annoyed because she is always in his way. But she solves the crime. The perp either goes to jail or dies by no fault of the heroine. So the heroine cannot kill the perp. So it's one of those things where they're falling off the cliff and the heroine goes to grab the perp and the cliff breaks away and it's too late. She tries hard, but she missed it and the person died. Okay, so that would be a cozy murder mystery trope. So basically, it's a formula that you need to follow to fit the needs of your genre. Not all stories have tropes. There's a lot of mainstream stuff that does not have a trope. We're talking really genre fiction here. Like I said, your romance, your cozy murders, even your horrors and your science fictions. And I mean, they all have a bit of a trope. Now, the key to it is to hit these plot points in these tropes to make sure that your stories have these items, these elements, but make it creative. That's right. You have to be creative as a writer. Oh my goodness. I know. I said it. Yeah, it happens. You have to be creative. You have to find a way to hit those markers, to hit that trope and not be boring about it. Okay. So that's what a story trope is. See, now I'm saying it. I'm saying it right now. Yay. Yeah, for those of y'all that just joined, you missed me saying trope about 1,000 times when I meant to say trope. It's good times. It's good times. Let me tell you. Okay. So get creative. A story trope is basically what the elements of that story, the formula of that story. And I know people are like, well, I don't want to write a formulaic story. Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying that it has to be a cookie cutter of all the other romances. You definitely need to be creative. But if you're writing a romance, the couple has to meet, the couple has to fall in love, they have to have a misunderstanding, then they have to fix it, and they have to live happily ever after. That's what a story trope is. That's the formula. Now, your job is to make that formula not sound like every other book that's ever been written in romance. Easy, right? Totes. Okay, now this is my long question. Okay, so could you go into more detail about how you use story cards for outlining? This is from Glenn in Oklahoma. I have yammered on and on and on about outlining, and I really, really do want to do a workshop just on outlining. Put it up there on YouTube. You can watch it as you want to. But that is not going to happen anytime soon. My husband is traveling a ton right now. Oh, excuse me, I've got all verklempt. My husband is traveling a lot right now for work. I need to use his computer to do it, and he needs to kind of walk me through the software again because I have not used it in probably 6 years. It probably has changed in that 6 years. So I will definitely get to that, but I don't want to just leave you hanging until I get to it. And of course we have holidays coming up, which everybody knows holidays are crazy. So she went off camera. So we're going to go through storyboarding today. Okay, this is going to be the long part that I was talking about. I'm going to break it down. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to brainstorm. You might have a little bit of an idea, but you need to flesh that idea a little bit so that you know what you're outlining. I like to use the spider web technique, and I've already written this up just to save time because I have a lot to go over, and I'm doing really well right now, so let's hope it stays that way and I don't wander down a lot of rabbit trails. So this is called a spider web. You probably learned it in English class when you were working on writing and you needed to come up with ideas. This one is specifically for Quail Crossings. Okay, so my initial idea was the Dust Bowl, and then just what items come to mind. Well, somebody's making an angry face. Oh, anyway, I hope you don't keep making an angry face. But this is what ideas come to mind when I think about the Dust Bowl. And, you know, maybe I could set it in the city, a fabric shop, child labor, the struggles of all that. But no, I went with farming, a farm community, because that is what I know. And so orphans. And so here you see family, grief, orphans, farm, Dust Bowl, that all came together in my little spider web. And that is my broader idea of what I want to write. So that was my brainstorm. Now, usually I don't need to do this for novels. For me, and probably for a lot of you, when I have a book in my head, it kind of runs through my head like a movie preview. And so I see it. I don't need this because I already see it here. And so a lot of you don't need this. But if you're writing, say, for a prompt, this is a really good tool to use when you have a writing prompt you need to write for. Okay, so that's that. Now, what you might want to do at this point is also write a synopsis. Now, a synopsis is a summary of the entire book. We're talking beginning, middle, and end. And that includes the climax and the resolutions. And you include spoilers. You say what's going to happen. You say how it's going to be resolved in a synopsis. Writers all over the world hate writing synopsis. But let me tell you, they are a lot easier at the beginning of a novel than they are after you've finished a novel. So kind of write down, hey, this is what my story is about. Here's how it starts. Here's kind of what's going to happen in the middle. Here's going to be the climax. Here's how we're going to resolve this. Here's the ending. Okay, and it's not long. It shouldn't be more than a couple of pages. In fact, a lot of agents ask for like a one-page synopsis. And let me tell you, getting 80,000 words down into one page is, that's why writers don't like synopsis, because we're like, I've got all the story to tell and you want me to give you the Cliff Notes version, which is basically what that is. But if you're a new writer, a synopsis can really help you with your outline. And I know this seems like a lot of pre-work to write a novel, and it may even feel like productive procrastination, but I do feel like it will help you when you're actually writing the novel as a guide. The more guidebooks, the more maps you have, the better your trip's going to be. I mean, that's science. So then let's get to the storyboarding. Now, I do all this virtually now, but I broke out the old index cards just for you guys. We have to scoop back a little bit though, because I don't have enough room here. So I'm going to put my fancy little blinder here over the cards for right now. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start off with your index cards. And again, this can be either virtual or not, okay? So I gave each character a different color. And this is very much a scaled down version of my storyboards. When I did this for the full novel, we're talking 4 large cork boards covered in cards. Okay, so this is just an example. And this is for Return to Quail Crossings. And on each one of these, so I gave each character a color, and I tried to keep that color consistent through the series. And then I put things like their ages, their hair color, their eye color, and their habits. Now ignore the ages on these because I had to pull cards from other books because I didn't have them all in one spot. In fact, I was in my closet looking for these cards and I thought, oh my gosh, I really need to clean this closet out, which would have been productive procrastination. Does it need to be done? Yeah. Does it need to be done right now? No. Had to do this. So did not fall into that today. There was no time. So anyway, so here are 4 of my characters from Return to Quail Crossings. You have Debbie, Evelyn, Bill, and Elmer. Okay, so once I got their cards and their colors, that is when I said, okay, what do I want to happen at the start? My fancy talent is just, you just can't get good help nowadays, can you? So I just don't want to distract you guys. So then I start with, okay, so how do I want this story to start? See if I can let you guys see this a little bit better. So what I do is like, okay, so what's going to happen to Debbie during the beginning? What's going to happen to Evelyn during the beginning? Bill, and so on. Okay, so I write that down, and then I put them in the order that I want to write them. I don't always keep it Debbie, Evie, Bill, and Elmer. I put them in the order that I'm going to write them. And so this was the very first outline of Return to Quail Crossings. And there's a reason that I'm telling you this, and I'm going to come back to it because it's not how the book was actually written. So Evie comes home with the baby. That was the very first thing that happened. Dovey's concerned about Evie and the child's safety because they've been out in the cold. Bill wants to know who the daddy is. And Elmer really wants to convince her to find a family for this baby because it's pretty scandalous in 40, I think I said 1939, but I actually said it in 1940. It would be pretty scandalous for somebody to come home without a daddy or a baby, not being married, stuff. So then after that is when, and I just keep doing that. So now listen, so like chapter 1, that's not literally chapter 1. That's a guideline. Okay, so what's your chapters should end organically. So you don't want to force it. You don't want to be like, oh, that's the last card. I gotta cut it off right there. I would like to say that you'll know when the end of the chapter is, but for certain, the end of the chapter should make the person want to read the next chapter. And I'm going to go a little bit into chapter length here. It is my personal opinion, the shorter the better. Not shorter the better. Between 6 and 8 pages, I think it is what a chapter should be. That, again, is my opinion. And I say that because as a reader, if I'm reading a 7-page chapter, I get to the end and there's a cliffhanger, as there often is because the writer wants you to keep reading, then I'm more likely to keep reading 7 more pages. But if I turn the page and I see that the chapter is 15 pages long, I'm probably going to put that book down and go to bed. So that is why I like chapter pages between 6 and 8. And this varies. That is not a hard and fast rule. Again, your chapters should end organically, but just keep that in mind that they shouldn't be too terribly long or too terribly short. So there is kind of a happy medium there. So once I start, so there's my start. Okay, so what's going to happen next to these characters? And so then I write that down and I put them in the order that I want to write them. And that continues. So next I want Debbie to really start questioning Evie about this baby. Bill comforts Luann because she's wanted to have a baby. She's had a really hard time conceiving. And so she's feeling a little bit jealous. Evie agrees to talk to Pastor Spaulding about the baby situation, trying to kind of salvage her reputation. And Elmer goes back to school. Now, this is the start of a subplot, and we can talk about more about that in another day. Not today. We don't have time for that, but this is where the subplot starts. So the reason I put this here is because not every card has to deal with the main plot. Some of it can be dealing with the subplots. And when you have as many characters as I have, there are going to be subplots. The main story might be about Evie and her baby, but we also see Luann struggling, and we see that Elmer is going to go to school and he's going to meet this guy named Jack that he doesn't really like. And I think his name changed to Fred or something. I don't even remember, but and then, it just keeps going. I just keep going. And so this Evie has met Robert. Because I didn't put all the cards. Evie has met Robert. She decides to marry Robert to save her reputation and Joy's reputation. Bill doesn't want her to marry him because she doesn't know him. Debbie doesn't want her to marry him because she thinks that Evie's lying to her. And Elmer's dealing with Jack. So you kind of see how I'm just like, okay, this is what I want to happen to each character next. And then I put them on the board where I can move them around if necessary. Now, when I did this on index cards, I used my whole dining room table and I laid them all out at one time. Now I do it virtually on Scrivener. It is really the only thing I use Scrivener for, but a lot of people swear by Scrivener. But I mean, I bought it for that and I use it for that, and I don't hate that I made that purchase at all. So, but before, I laid them all out on my dining room table, cats and all, which my friend Jaylene thought was incredibly dangerous of me. But that way I can move them to where I wanted to. And I can still do that on Scrivener. It's a little bit harder because I don't have all of the cards out in front of me at once. I can only have what the computer screen will allow me to have. But I can move them around. And on Scrivener, I give each character like a little square color. The cards aren't the whole color. You can't change the cards. Be nice if that was an option, but it's not. So I do this until the end of the book. And like I said, these chapters, they're really just guidelines. They kind of help with my rows and my columns. And so it's not necessary, but you kind of need to break it up a little bit. Like, you know, there really needs, this is kind of where things change a little bit. This is where things kind of change a little bit. And that all comes with writing. I wish I could give you the magic way to know when your chapter is ended, but in all honesty, it comes with experience. And so you just kind of feel it. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's, you know, again, not that tangible thing, but you just kind of feel it. And so one more thing on this, when I would write those plot points, then I would take them down off the corkboard. And that showed me how I was progressing. So it gave me kind of like a to-do list. So I didn't get overwhelmed by the story because I would just pull the cards and I would see, oh, look how far I've gotten. So that was really cool. I do that now on Scrivener, except I just mark it done and it says done over the top. So I can see how many cards that are done. It doesn't actually pull them. So I see how many cards that are done. And again, I can see the progress that I've made. And for a writer, that is a really great tool to be able to see how far you've come, because it's really hard when you're stuck in that muddled middle. It's really easy to give up because you're like, oh, there's still so much to write. And, you know, you're sitting at 30,000 words and, you know, you have at least 30,000 more until the book is done, but you've already written 30,000. And sometimes it just feels a little bit overwhelming. So it's really nice to have that list that says, hey, you've gone this far and you only have this far to go. So that's one of the main reasons I like outlining. I think I had something. Oh, yes. So I showed you an old outline. And if you've read Return to Quell Crossings, you know that's not how it started. And that's not how I wrote it. Now, the reason I showed you those old cards is because you do not have to be a slave to the outline. Even though you write an outline, you can change it. If your story is going and it's flowing in a different direction, you go with the flow. You do not force your story to fit into this bubble that you've made. It's okay to branch off. You still kind of had a guide. You still kind of know what needs to happen next. You don't have to go and write a whole new outline. I did for this one, but only because I went in like such a drastically different direction. But most people don't have to do that. And, you know, that was just one of those books that I thought I really had it and got quite a ways into it. And I was just like, this is not it. This is not the story. And that happens. It happens. It happens to everybody. Thankfully, I had good friends that told me not to just delete everything because that's where I was going to go. But I did kind of start over on this particular book. But that other writing is, you know, it's filed away in the cyber cabinet. So if I ever want to pull it out again, I can. So don't just delete. Even if you're going to kind of start over, even if you know your story's not going in the right direction, don't just delete it. It's okay if your story goes away from the outline. Just write with the flow. You don't have to stop everything you're doing and write it down. Just let your story write itself. Because if it's flowing, it's flowing. Don't stop it. So, okay. So I went through all of that without really looking at my notes. So I wonder if I forgot anything. Probably not, because I literally do this for every novel and novella that I write. So I just wanted to make sure that you're not chained to your outline. That was a really big point that I wanted to make. So, and I think I have. Glenn also asked me how many cards, storyboard cards, make up a novel. This is such a hard question to answer because it really depends on how detailed your cards are. Most of my novels run around 130 cards, but that depends on, you know, Debbie might have 5 or 6 different cards in a chapter. It depends on the scene. If it's really detailed in my head, I'm going to go ahead and put that down on my outline so that I remember what it is in my head so I don't have to worry about forgetting it later when I actually get to that scene. There are times when I have like every moment of a scene on a card, and so that makes up for a lot of cards. But when I write it, I'm going to be able to push those cards aside real quickly because I'm like, wrote that. There's other times when I'm like, they have a moment. That's what the card says. What's their moment? I don't know at that time. I just know that according to my story, trope. See, I did it again. I was distracted by my string though, so there's a difference. According to my story, trope, I need to have them have a moment in order for the romance to work. So sometimes my cards just say they have a moment. And then when I'm writing, that moment comes naturally, it comes organically. Sometimes I have to do a little Pinteresting and kind of, see what the muse has in mind. But most of the time, it just comes organically. So I can't tell you how many cards that it will take because it all depends on how detailed that outline is. So if you go into a really detailed outline, you might have 200 to 300 cards. If you're just like really just plot point, you may have half as many as I have now. So yeah, that's a hard question. There's no right answer. So don't strive for just a particular number. I really am going to do this detailed video about outlining. It will probably be within the next year. And so I'm sorry about that. I know. I know you guys are waiting on it, but it might be nice for January when you're starting new stuff to have this outline video then. I don't know. I'm sorry. There's just not enough hours in the day and there's not enough computer knowledge up here and I don't have it on my laptop. So, it is what it is. And, sometimes things happen. Like this weekend, I did all that productive procrastination during the day with my book work and cleaning my office and getting my inventory straight. And then I was like, I'm going to bang out 2,000 to 3,000 words Saturday night. Well, Saturday night is when my husband decided that he was going to redo our server because something was wrong with it. Don't ask me what. Something was down. That's all I know. And fix my computer. And it was kind of funny because I put on Facebook that he took it away from me. And everybody was like, what, did you get grounded? No, we do not ground each other. We are adults. Thank you. We save that punishment for our children. Besides, I spent 2 weeks as a solo parent. I don't get grounded after that. Jiminy Christmas. Anyway, so Saturday night, I didn't write at all. He was still working it out on Sunday. So it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a mental break. I did some drawing. I was still being creative. I just did it in a different way. Just during NaNoWriMo, you can't take too many of them or you get behind. So it's okay to take that break. So Friday night, in case you missed it, you saw A, why I do these things at 10:30 and not 9 or 9:30, I think it was. And B, I had a special announcement. So yeah, I do these things at 10:30 because the kids are asleep, not just in bed, but asleep by 10:30. And my husband is usually getting ready to go to sleep. So he's pretty chillax at this point. So I'm not getting interrupted. On Friday night, I literally sat down like totally out of breath because they took that moment to have like a conversation about a sweatshirt with me because my daughter wants a certain sweatshirt. Mike thinks it's too expensive and the hoodie's messing with me now. Mike thinks it's too expensive. And I was just like, I gotta go live, you guys. Get out of my way. And so anyway, so that's why I do these at 10:30 because I was just like, ooh, even more so than I am now, if you can believe it. So my special announcement, which a lot of people thought was going to be babies. No more babies. No more babies. The house is full. Thank you. I say that and tomorrow I'll be like, oh, look, I'm pregnant. Woo. I'm not. No more babies. Okay. So anyway, I'm not going to be able to do my holiday tour this year. And I know it's been a couple of years and I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. I love those tours. I love seeing everybody. The only part I hate is the setup and the takedown. The rest of it I love. But baby bear, he's still very much a baby. He still very much needs his mama. And Mike is just doing an awful lot of traveling for his job. And his traveling trumps my traveling. That's just the way that it is. And so life is life. And so I hate, like Follett had their arts and crafts fair this past Saturday. I hated not being there, but it just wasn't in the cards. And so in order to kind of still give you those deals that I usually give during the holidays, I set up my webpage where you can now get personalized books from there. So let's say you want a copy of Quilt Crossings personalized to your grandma. All you have to do is go to my webpage, jennifermcmurrain.com, click on the tab that says signed paperbacks and gifts. And there you can, then you email me. It's a different email, but it's on the webpage. It's just to keep my business stuff kind of separate. But you email me there and you tell me what you want, how many of it you want, and if you want it personalized to somebody. And then I send you a PayPal invoice. You pay it online. You don't have to have a PayPal account. You can do it with your debit or credit card without having an account. You pay it, I ship it, it goes to your door. I'm just like Amazon, but slower. And you can get my mugs. Now, I only have one white mug left. I have plenty of black mugs. I will not be ordering any more of the white mugs just because I want to keep kind of like separate series, you know. So yeah, I only have one white one left. I have plenty of black ones though, because that's this year's mug. And I do mugs like every 2 to 3 years. So the white ones are from 2 to 3 years ago, and I almost got rid of all of those. I say got rid like it was a bad thing. I almost, yeah, no. They're tiny though, where the black mugs are like, yes, coffee, it's cold. And so, but you can get all that on my webpage now. And I will sign it, I will send it, I will personalize it, and, you know, even write you a nice little thank you note, a handwritten thank you note. Thank you very much. So anyway, I hope that you guys go and at least look at that and maybe think, oh, I really need a holiday gift for my friend Susie, who really likes to read romance. Oh, look, Jennifer has a new paranormal romance coming out at the end of this month. I can order that now and it will be here like by December 10th. See, it's so easy peasy. And it's signed. So can't get that on your Kindle. Just saying. All right, that's it for this week. I've gone over. I always go over. You guys should just expect it by now. I'm just such a rambler. That's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, if you have a question, please email me at jennifermcmurrain@gmail.com or PM me here on the Facebook. Either way is perfectly fine by me. I hope you guys are having an awesome writing time and awesome word counts, even if you're not participating in NaNoWriMo. Remember, your stories matter. Each and every one of them, they matter. You tell those stories, okay? All right, you guys have a good week and happy writing. My mouse doesn't want to go over. It's never going to end. All right, I got it. Bye, guys.